It's time for the Saturday morning cup of coffee with Paul the Waterman. Now, here's Paul.
Good morning. It's Saturday morning. It's Saturday morning coffee with Paul the Waterman. How's everybody doing today? Enjoying your breakfast? I'm going to have a cup of coffee with you this morning, and we're going to talk about some news issues. One, the last couple shows, we covered a lot of information, especially about the forever chemicals, PFOs, PFAs. I wanted to share with everybody the origins. How did we get here? How did two companies basically poison the world? Because that's exactly what happened. Forever chemicals mean that they're, it's forever. They don't dissipate. They don't disappear. The environment does not break them down, and that's the way they were designed. And there's a news article that was out, I saw this past week, that forever chemicals are linked to MS, multiple sclerosis. So if you have the gene that can lead to MS, the forever chemicals can help push you over the hump, so to speak, on causing that disease to trigger in your body. And so that doesn't surprise me. Something else I want to cover is people seeing the news. There's a fungus going around in hospitals that is resistant to antibiotics. And, that's something that we need to pay attention to because antibiotics are in our drinking water. Pharmaceuticals are absolutely in our drinking water. And then what did we learn last couple of shows is that, and I didn't realize this, is that we learned that forever chemicals, PFOs and PFAs, are now used in manufacturing medications. So we have to realize the importance of the quality of the water that we drink, the health that water is for us. Water is a flushing agent. Our body needs it. Our kidneys, our liver, our spleen, everything that's used to filter, that also affects, with our pancreas, because the pancreas also produces and is responsible for, producing, sugar for the body. And it's all, the digestive system all is starts with, us having good quality H2O. And so water is essential. So back to, this bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation means that it's all over the environment. It's everywhere. It's something that you can't escape. So if it's everywhere, it means it's not only in the water, it's in the plant life, it's in the aquatic life, it's in the agricultural products that we consume, the beef, the pork, the chicken, the poultry, the grains, the corn, products that soybeans are used, and, corn is used, and alfalfa, it's all over alfalfa. And then the other thing that, we have to consider, and I'm kind of doing a quick recap, so I appreciate your patience, wastewater treatment plants. Wastewater treatment plants are not designed to remove pharmaceuticals out of our water supply. They don't do it. They don't remove the forever chemicals out of our water supply. So that's something that we have to take in consideration as well. So why am I doing Saturday morning coffee with Paul the Waterman? I'm doing it more to inform everybody that we have to think about the quality of our water. Water is everyday life. Now, I own a company called Water Pros, and I'm in the business of, selling and installing and servicing, water filtration, water treatment equipment. And, everything that we offer is made here in the USA. I've been in the water treatment industry for over 35 years. And I've seen the water treatment industry where it was basically soft water, water softeners, and I saw the birth of the reverse osmosis, how the reverse osmosis evolved, because back in the day, it was water distillers. And then reverse osmosis technology started entering the market. It was almost like the Beta versus the VHS. You remember that? You remember the VHS cassette tapes, and then Beta was a smaller version of the VHS. And the story behind Beta is that it was a clear picture. The sound was better with a Beta VHS tape. And, a lot of the television studios used beta. Local television studios used the beta because of the high quality. Well, anyway, it was back to, that analogy with water distillers and reverse osmosis units. Now reverse osmosis units have kind of, they won. They've taken over, for drinking water filtration. A point of use reverse osmosis system is nanofiltration at 0.001 micron. And that's essential, and that will remove 99.999% of all the bad stuff that we want out of our water. So it'll attack the forever chemicals. It'll attack the pharmaceuticals. I was thinking about something, driving to the studio this morning, and one of the things that it hit me is, if you do a well water test and you have iron in the water, a lot of people, you'll get a test result that is MgL, that's milligrams per liter. And milligrams per liter is the same as ppm, which equals parts per million. So think about that. A part per million or milligram per liter is a very small. But my point is, it doesn't take a large number to have contaminated or a problem with your water. And back in the day, let's go 30, 40, 50 years ago, I'm 99.99% certain that's what these scientists were thinking when they knew they were poisoning, our water supply. They said that, they thought that the amount was so minute that it wouldn't make a difference, that the water would dilute it and it wouldn't be a big deal. So think about this. What have we learned in the last, 2 weeks? We learned is that if you have up to between 4 and 7 part per billion of PFAS in your body, that's enough to trigger certain cancer. And now the EPA is recommending zero PFAS in the water supply, but it went from a part per billion when it started, 4 part per billion, to, a part per trillion. And, it's now down to 0. So 1 part per billion, and I got that backwards, forgive me. So it started at 4 part per trillion, went down to 1 part per billion. 1 part per billion is enough as 1 drop of the contaminant in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And that's enough. This is small and minute. And they say, hey, everybody, every human being has PFAS in their system. And so that means that, okay, the cattle that we love to eat, the steak that we love to go to the steakhouse or fry up on the grill, the chicken, the barbecue chicken we like to eat, the fried chicken we like to eat, the pork chops, then it's safe to say if we have PFAS in our body, then they have PFAS in the body. And fish have PFAS. We're coming up, if you're Catholic, we're going to be coming up on Lent. And so Lent is something every Friday is a fish fry, right? We don't eat meat. So, dairy products. There's dairy farms all over the United States where our milk has PFAS, forever chemicals. So this is something that, we really need to pay attention to. So why I'm doing this is because I want to inform as many people as possible that, hey, the quality of our water, you really need to think about. And do I think water quality is safe? Absolutely not. And Water Pros, go to waterpros.net. We definitely, we have our brand new, we have our own matrix. If you go to waterpros.net, you can see our matrix water filtration system. It's all Water Pros. It's all 100% made in the USA. I'm very proud of that. It's a state-of-the-art filtration media technology, and it's something that can design to not only remove the forever chemicals, reduce them, but also, the total chlorine content and the hardness. So, yes, I am here to promote Water Pros and to, hopefully earn your business in water filtration and water treatment. But my main priority is to educate everybody, get people to think about the quality of our water. Our water quality is something that's everyday life. And as we get older, as a society, another issue that we're going to have to think about is water supply. And what we're also going to cover today is, and this is something I think Northern Colorado, you will not be immune from. And you're going to really have to pay attention to this. where is all the water going to come from that's going to service all these brand new neighborhoods? Building in northern Colorado is going to continue. And in some cases, building in northern Colorado is going to increase because, I believe your economy in northern Colorado is better than the Denver metro area is. And it's, all about politics. But I think there's a lot of growth here in northern Colorado. So one of the questions we're going to have to ask is, where is the new water resources going to come from? And when we come back, we're going to talk about, water resources. I'm going to share with you what's going on in Douglas County, Colorado, south of you, because their issue and their problems is something that I think could be right at your doorstep. So let's take our first break. This is Saturday Morning Coffee with Paul the Waterman and AM 1310 KFKA. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Saturday Morning Coffee with Paul the Waterman. I'm Paul Dowding. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. So I was mentioning to you guys about Douglas County. Douglas County at one time was the fastest growing county in the United States. There's a community out there, Highlands Ranch, was booming, and it was growing faster than in the early 90s. It was the fastest thing that was growing in the whole United States of America. And so you have Highlands Ranch, and Highlands Ranch pretty much expands. And when you have Lone Tree, it goes into Castle Rock. Castle Rock is booming. It's huge. And so the problem is the water resources. They're running out of water. And so we have several customers in Douglas County. And I went to one home right before Christmas. They're running out of water. The well is running out of water. They never had this problem before. And why is the well running out of water? Because of overuse. These aquifers are being taxed. These aquifers, there's homes that are being built in Douglas County that have these elaborate high-end sprinkler systems. Water, we live in a desert. Let's face it. We really, truly do. I mean, think about this, what happened over the holidays. I was telling my wife, people spend good money to travel to other areas to have warm weather like we did during Christmas. And we got it for free. We didn't have to go anywhere. Right now we're in a drought. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, there's not much moisture. Thursday and Friday this week, we got a little, accumulation, but nothing to really, brag about. So I think we're in a drought. And so the problem is with water, lack of moisture, and we got to hope that March and February and March and April really pick it up and get us caught up for the year, because we're going to be in trouble. And what's happening is that the lack of moisture, if it doesn't fill our aquifers, then your aquifer levels, go down. And depending upon what your well depth is and how far you're into that aquifer, is just like a customer in Douglas County off of Perry Park and Wolfensberger Road. He's running out of water. And because of the low aquifer, he was on a well that had extremely high iron content and hardness. Well, guess what? The water level has changed so much that the iron is pretty much gone away. Now, well water quality can change. Well water, it does not, and it could take 10 years, it could take 20 years, it could take 30 years for well water quality can change, but it will do that. But it can enhance that issue and happen faster because of, all the water usage. I was at a home last week in Douglas County where, the well water is getting low enough where they're actually getting turbidity, floaty dirt is being sucked into the home. Now, we can treat that. You need an ultrafilter, but if you have water that's cloudy and as it settles, there's gray silt on the bottom of your glass or in the bottom of the toilet bowl you notice or in your sink, that's turbidity. We went to a bathroom to pull the lid off the toilet, and absolutely you should see the caked on dirt that was on the side of the toilet bowl. So this is, a concern because of water usage. And so I think you guys in northern Colorado are going to have the same problem based on all the growth that you have. And so what are we going to do with water resource? Well, I'll tell you what they're going to do with water resource. It's going to become, for those that live in a municipality that is being supplied by, a water district, And that's another issue, a non-elected water board or water district being appointed by a municipality. So city government, appoints and people that aren't elected run your water district. And then the water district goes out and they design and determine where they're going to get the water from that's going to serve this community. And then one of the theories that everybody's counting on is reusable water. That's right. It's going to be from the toilet to the tap. San Diego was the first one that really implemented this. That and this was 5 years ago. San Diego was proud to say, "Hey, we're going from the toilet to the tap, reusable water." And then there was an article that was written in a San Diego paper. I remember that one of the headlines that said, "Why worry about it? We're all drinking dinosaur pee anyway." So reusable water. Why should we pay attention and be concerned when it comes to reusable water? I'll tell you why. Pharmaceutical contamination is one. So when you go through reusable water and it's recyclable water, your contamination buildup is basically going to increase. Wouldn't you agree? So if I'm taking something and I flush it down the toilet, and instead of it going out and back into a body of water where it can get mixed and diluted, but we know it doesn't go away, and it's reusable, then the concentration of those certain pharmaceuticals are only going to increase over time. So my question to everybody out there is that, do you think right now they're doing studies, and they're going to be truthful with us, but, right? Are they doing studies to determine a concentration of a certain pharmaceutical could start affecting us? So forever chemicals, that's a pharmaceutical. So they've come out and they basically said, okay, forever chemicals, the EPA standard really should be 0. And municipalities, I think, have up to the year 2027 to start implementing filtration systems to remove forever chemicals. The EPA, remember this, the EPA has a laundry list of unregulated contaminants. Unregulated contaminants is something that is in the water supply. They know it's in the water supply, but the municipality is not required to test for it, and then they don't have to report it. So one of them that I mentioned to you guys about and trying to, scream off the top of the mountains, for people to hear me on this one, what really bothers me is 1,4-dioxin. 1,4-dioxin is an industrial stabilizer that's been in our water supply for over almost 100 years. 100 years. 1,4-dioxin was first introduced in, I believe, in the late 1800s. I want to say 1863. Now, there's been states that have outlawed 1,4-dioxin, but there's loopholes in the laws, and 1,4-dioxin is still being used today in laundry soap. But you guys go to Google, type in 1,4-dioxin, or go to DuckDuckGo, go to Bing, type in 1,4-dioxin. There's everything that I share with you in this radio program. You can find out, for yourself. 1,4-dioxin is just one sample of an unregulated contaminant that is, they know about it, they're not doing anything about it. The other one that they finally did something about is trihalomethanes. And what is trihalomethanes? Trihalomethanes, if you go to the National Primary Drinking Water Regulations, and that's off the website, the EPA.gov/groundwater and drinking water, you'll find this. And trihalomethanes is a byproduct of disinfecting agents. So chlorination or chloramine mixed with organics create trihalomethanes. And trihalomethanes are absolutely in your water supply right now. The levels, this is something that it's a mandated contaminant that they must test and report for. So back in the 90s, the World Health Organization was screaming out loud, wanting everybody to pay attention to trihalomethanes. And eventually, it takes as long as 13 years to get an unregulated contaminant to be nominated by the EPA, then to be tested and researched to then get on the contaminated list, up to 13 years. So there's tons of contamination out there that, they know about, but they're not telling us. So trihalomethanes, thanks to the World Health Organization, is one of those contaminants. And the acceptable level of trihalomethanes, the maximum contamination level of trihalomethanes in a water supply is 0. So what is a byproduct of drinking water disinfection? It can cause liver and kidney and central nervous system problems. It's an increased risk of cancer. Trihalomethanes, not only will we drink them, but there's also, we will breathe them in the steam when we take a nice hot shower. When you take a nice hot shower, you're breathing all the contaminants in water, you're breathing that in, especially those that have the steam shower. Water filtration is something that we absolutely have to have. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you what water filtration can do in the long run. Stick around. We'll be right back. This is Saturday Morning Coffee with Paul the Waterman on KFKA. Welcome back. Thanks for being with me this morning. So, water filtration, water treatment. If I remove contamination from water, and so that means that the water that's going down the drain has contamination removed from it, then over a period of time, we can make a difference in the quality of our water. We really can. Think about this. If I send water down the drain that goes to the waste treatment plant that's absent of trihalomethanes, that won't really make a difference because trihalomethanes is there because of the disinfectant byproducts. Okay, so that's one thing that it will always be there. But we can start making a difference by removing pharmaceuticals. We can start making a difference by removing the forever chemicals. And so the process I think we need to think about is that water filtration, it's good for me today and for my current health, but it's going to help our generation and the kids for tomorrow. I'm concerned. I really am concerned. And I was talking to the producer this morning before the show. I'm concerned that when we're at a reusable water state, there's going to be a certain members of our community that have immune issues that are going to be affected. And I think we're already affected because of these superbugs. Because of this fungus that's in hospitals that's bacteria resistant. They have bacteria resistant antibiotic superbugs right now with bacteria. Viruses aren't affected by antibiotics. So we all know that. So it's it's bacteria and funguses. And so if we get an infection where antibiotics isn't doing anything to save, to stave off the infection, to kill the bacteria, to kill the fungus, these superbugs, let's call them, is it because of the water that we drink? And if we're drinking a cocktail that has antibiotics, and if we're eating, our food, our vegetables, our meats, that have antibiotics in them, is that part of the problem? That's what we really have to ask ourselves. Is that part of the problem? So if we start out with a point of use reverse osmosis, that's, step one. 9 times out of 10, the quality of water where you live, you're going to need a water softener because reverse osmosis units are not designed to operate in hard water. You're looking at a nanofiltration filter, so hard water will eat them up. And what I mean by that is they'll plug up. The filtration will get absorbed by the hardness, and then when hard water oxidizes inside that filter, it'll scratch the membrane, and then the water will pass through. If you have a reverse osmosis right now in your home and you've got calcium buildup on the RO faucet, it's not doing you any good. And here's something else to think about. Right around Christmas, we got a phone call. A lady bought a filter, an online filter, and she needed help with it being installed. So we asked her a couple questions, and one of the things I asked her, where she lived at. She lived in a part of a community by me where the water hardness was over 15 grains per gallon. So I said, hey, let's take a look at the operating parameters of this filter to see if it's even going to function the way you were sold, the way you were told it to. So she sent me the information, and sure enough, we were able to look at it together. And the water filter was only, they said, could operate ideally a water hardness less than 7 grains per gallon. Well, she was twice as hard. So, one, I think it's really risky when you buy any kind of filtration online. And two, where's that filter being made? I don't trust anything from Asia when it comes to drinking water filters. Absolutely don't. The third thing you should really think about is that if somebody over the phone is going to tell you, oh, this water filter is going to last 1 million gallons of water, well, that's probably one of the most irresponsible things they can say. How do they know it's going to last 1 million gallons of water? And majority of the filters that are sold online are activated carbon filters. Now, activated carbon, let's talk about that real quick. Activated carbon, the pores in activated carbon are so small that a small amount of activated carbon can absorb a lot of organic contamination. However, and this is a big however, it's all going to depend on how much contamination you have. And you throw hard water into the mix, and it won't last very long at all. It's also, if your municipality that you're paying, your water source, you're paying for, if you have iron in the water, if you have rust in the water, that's something that, your municipality is sending you, and they're treating it with chlorine content. And chlorine is an oxidizer. Because chlorine is an oxidizer, the iron precipitates out of the water, and that's what you see in the back of the toilet bowl, or that's what you see in the holding tank. Okay, so that iron content, along with the chlorine content, is going to exhaust that carbon filter. It's going to cause that carbon to expire faster than what they thought. So that's why it's irresponsible, or what they claim. That's why it's irresponsible for these folks that are selling filters online to basically say, I can filter up to 1 million gallons of water. It's important to understand the operating parameters of the filtration system. So this company she bought the filter from, fortunately they put, what the operating parameters for that filter were, and we were able to go over it with her. And so, we recommended her, you can use this filter. I mean, if it's going to, eliminate the forever chemicals and the total chlorine, absolutely, but support it by a water softener. And that's exactly what we did, we installed a water softener before the filter. And, that filter is going to rock and roll all day long because it's filtering soft water. And so it's going to, operate as claimed, being supported by a water softener. So water filtration is not plug and play. You really need to understand the quality of water that you have and make sure that the quality of your water that you have, the filter that you're looking at, will perform as claimed. So again, I'll say this, water filtration is not plug and play. So, that's why we come out and we do the hardness test, the total chlorine content. We go over the recommended, filtration media that we recommend. We design filtration systems specifically to deal with the forever chemicals, the total chlorine content, the hard water. And then, you have a whole house filtration system. Then you use a point of use reverse osmosis to get rid of the remainder of the forever chemicals and also the pharmaceuticals in the water supply. So back to my point, what I was saying earlier, if we start sending filtrated water down the drain, that filtrated water, absent of contaminants, then eventually what will happen is our water supply will start getting cleaned up. So we can do this at a municipal level. We can do this at an individual home level. But this is something we really need to think about. We have an election year coming up, and I'm willing to bet you no one's going to talk about the quality of water. But what I was mentioning earlier, with the growth that you guys have going on here in northern Colorado, you're going to be in the same boat. Water, there's only so much water that's available. And I wonder how many people out there, I'd be interested to know how many people out there on well water that's, listening to our show today, have you run out of water this year? Did you run out of water last summer, irrigating? And something else, there's a lot of folks who have well water here in northern Colorado that has high sodium content. And high sodium content can only be removed with a point of use reverse osmosis. If you have high sodium, if you have your well water and you can't grow anything and you had it tested and the sodium absorption ratio is off the charts, the only way to remove the sodium out of the water is through a point of use reverse osmosis system. I just wanted to share that with you. There's the Northern Colorado State University gave me some resources years ago from a university in Canada regarding, water quality, salt in the water, and how it affects livestock. I was surprised that there's nothing local that research that was done, and maybe that's changed because this has been a handful of years ago. But I got some information from a university out of Canada, and cattle can handle sodium in the water at a high level. Horses not so much. But anyway, that's just a FYI. Let's take a quick time out, and then we'll be right back. This is Saturday Morning Coffee with Paul the Waterman, 1310 KFKA. Welcome back. Paul the Waterman here. Okay, so one of the things that is coming up now in a fact sheet, so if you guys go to the Water Quality Association, WQA.org, it's a non-for-profit. It's a international laboratory. It's the headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. And what they do is the Water Quality Association has really stepped up to help the water treatment industry. I'll give you a quick background. So back in the day, the NSF used to be known as the National Sanitation Foundation, and then they just went to the abbreviated NSF. They were the gold standard. The NSF, you had to go, basically, it was a gold seal. The NSF certified water filtration products. And everybody, was bragging about, hey, our product has the NSF seal of approval, that it's going to function, perform as claimed. That's the big thing. Well, then the NSF decided that they were going to start charging a premium price for their certification. And it got to be so expensive for that certification that manufacturers, like, we can't afford this. You're making our product unaffordable. And what happened is the Water Quality Association said, hey, we'll step up. We'll do the certification to the NSF standards. So the Water Quality Association, the WQA, now certifies the filtration and drinking water products per NSF standards. They took the standards that were the standard bearer in the industry, and then they basically do the testing and certification. And so if you don't see, the NSF seal, and if you see the phrase, standard water, testing per the, specifications of the NSF by the Water Quality Association, you absolutely can trust that. Now, this is very important and very technical. If somebody uses a filtration media, and they say this filtration media is certified by the Water Quality Association, just because it's granular activated carbon doesn't mean it's the same quality of granular activated carbon. You're still going to want that manufacturer to state that this is tested in the standards by the Water Quality Association using the NSF standards. So, that's something that, just keep an eye on. In today's world, unfortunately, things can be photoshopped. Things can be copied. I know for a fact that we've seen, what I call fake products that say they have the NSF approval seal, and it's just not the case. People are handing out business cards with products that have the NSF seal, and you do your research, and one, NSF has, knows nothing about it. Two, you go to the, Water Quality Association, they know nothing about it. And so what's happening is you have a scenario where people are making claims that don't exist. So unfortunately, we definitely have to do your homework, especially if you're buying something online. So, our products, we get right out of outside of Sandy, Utah. That's where Water Pros, everything that we use is made here in the USA. The main manufacturer is headquartered in Appleton, Wisconsin. And then from Appleton, Wisconsin, it goes to the distribution center in Sandy, Utah, and the guys in Utah get it right to us. So, our costs are very competitive because we don't pay a lot of freight. Because Water Pros is an independent, where you're not paying for a brand name. There's a lot of brand names out there. There's a lot of folks that, offer free water tests through Home Depot, through Costco, and they come out and they represent a major brand name. And a lot of the technology that they're offering, believe it or not, is 35 to 40 years old. They haven't improved the valve one bit. So, with the Clack valve, the Clack is a family-owned manufacturing company, and I think it's the best control valve out in the market today. And it's something that has only one moving part. You program the computer, and it goes. We do not have a huge service department because of the quality of the equipment that we install, and I'm grateful for that. I know there's a lot of other major water treatment companies out there that have their service department is one of the biggest departments in the company because they're having issues all the time. So, and something else to chew the bubblegum on. If anybody's out there telling you, especially in the water filtration industry, that it's a lifetime warranty on the filtration media, that's extremely, extremely irresponsible. And 9 times out of 10, if you read that warranty, the warranty is a manufacturer defect. Someone says that it offers a lifetime warranty. Most likely it's a lifetime warranty on the manufacturing practices, and they're warranting against manufacturing defects. So make sure you read the fine lines there. It's something that we really want to pay attention to. So with water filtration and water treatment and the growth in our community, the reusable water is a major concern, and we need to start asking the questions. So if you guys go to a reusable water and the concentration buildup on pharmaceuticals is going to be a major concern. The concentration buildup on the forever chemicals are going to be a major concern. So the municipalities have, I believe, to 2027, if they have any trace of PFAS, they're not going to be able to provide that water resource. And if that's the case, do you not see the cost of water, your water bill going up to help cover the cost of filtration? Now, the Biden EPA was supposed to provide grants to municipalities to help afford and update filtration. But what have we learned in the state of Minnesota? We learned that government fraud and COVID money that was, it was used and abused and wasted. So anytime you have a government agency telling you that we've allocated billions of dollars for this, most likely it's not going to go to what it was allocated for. It's already gone to somebody else's pocket. So that's why you really have to take the responsibility of yourself. So if we start at home and we start doing our filtration ourselves, the wastewater that we're sending down the drain, if we get that free of contaminants, then it's going to take several generations from where we are today to get our water, quality greatly improved. Think about this real quick. We've had over 75 years, let's just say it's 75 years of contamination in our water supply, and it's over that, but I'm just picking the 75 years of contamination in our water supply that we've done basically nothing about. Since the 1960s, 63, when Teflon were first, there was other industrial chemicals, the PFAS contamination, occurred during World War II. Keep that in mind. But in the early 60s, when they started testing and using lab rats and mice for the forever chemicals, they knew the dangers then. And it kept going, and it's still going today. You know, the last couple of minutes I want to share with you real quick. Keep this in mind. Guys, we have Gen X chemicals. Gen X chemicals, the EPA was on their bad list, said, hey, don't use these. These are bad. These are not good for us. Gen X chemicals are a sister contaminant of PFAS, PFOs, PFAs. And Gen X chemicals is designed to replace PFOs and PFAs. And the EPA had them on the bad contamination list. And what happened? The EPA removed Gen X chemicals from the contamination list. So now it's an unregulated contaminant. So it's back in our water supply. It's being used in water resistant, water repellents. Rain-X. Remember Rain-X that we used to wipe our windshield to have rain repellent, water repellent? Gen X chemical. Firefighting foam, Gen X chemical. Forever chemicals, PFAS. Water resistant clothing. So it's still there in our environment. So down the road, we're going to have a discussion. What are we going to do with exhausted water filtration media? So in the last minute, I want you to think about this until we meet again. If a municipality has water filtration media to remove out PFAS, what are they going to do with that exhausted filtration media because it's going to be saturated with PFAS? Are they going to put it back in a landfill where it's going to recontaminate our aquifers again, or are they going to incinerate it? Same thing we should think about with our own point-of-use filtration systems and our filters. Should they not have a process, if you have your own whole house filter, where you basically put your filtration system in a bag in the landfill, they separate that, and those filters get incinerated at a high enough temperature that it, destroys the contamination. It just doesn't put it back in the atmosphere through the exhaust, the smoke. So these are things that, we definitely need to talk about. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you being here today. I look forward to next weekend. And everybody have a blessed week ahead. Enjoy, your new year. God bless, and thanks again for being with me. It's Paul the Waterman. We'll see you later.